Dune Part 2 is obliterating the box office, so you know what that means. The contrarians are coming out of hiding like cockroaches. I swear people love complaining for nothing. We get one of the best sci-fi sequels ever, and the first thought is find something to get mad at. This is part of why some modern storytelling is starting to lose its nuance and subtlety. People need everything spelled out for them now, or they try to find issues with anything that's not explained to them like they're toddlers. In the case of Dune Part 2, the discussion has started to revolve around the white savior topic. Again, I remember this being a talking point after the first movie came out, and of course it's making the rounds once more.
Paul is one of the biggest examples of the white savior trope that I've seen in a while.
In case anyone is out of the loop, a white savior story is one where a white character is shown to liberate, rescue, or, well, pretty much save a group of colored or non-white people. It's kind of self-explanatory. In most examples of this, a white savior is inexplicably better than the people of a culture at their own shit and sometimes pushes the lines of being a Mary Sue. People have an issue with stories like this just because of how common it used to be and how it depicts colored people as helpless and always in need of saving by the great white man. Iron Fist, specifically Danny Rand, would be a classic example of a white savior narrative. The whole conversation when it comes to Dune 2, though, is kind of annoying to me just because of how painfully obvious they made it that Paul is not the good guy. Maybe after part 1 you could have had some doubts, but after this movie it's clear as day. He himself doesn't want to go down the path of becoming the Fremen Messiah because he sees what it leads to. Chaney is actively against it the whole movie and very clearly resents him for what he's done. The movie never paints it as a good thing. Yes, the Fremen people in the movie are actively falling for the Messiah BS that the Bene Gesserit fed them years ago, and they are the ones that see him as the savior. The movie treats it like impending doom, though. They've been doing it since the first part. Paul was horrified of his future when he first started getting visions of a holy war back in part 1. In part 2, he avoids going south as long as he can, and when he finally does and he drinks the water of life, Chaney, who was the love of his life, slaps the shit out of him and walks away. There's no perspective in this movie where Paul is actually treated like a genuine savior besides the Fremen people, who are the ones being manipulated. Probably the most annoying part about this is the fact that the movie already lost some of its subtlety trying to make this as obvious as they could, and you still have people who didn't understand it. Take a look at this TikTok creator, for example.
As of right now, the movie almost paints it as if Paul is the savior and he's a charismatic leader that means to do the natives harm.
She talks about how the movie paints Paul as both an actual savior and a possible threat, but that's literally the point. It's as if some people just discovered perspective. From the Fremen point of view, he was a savior. From Chaney's point of view, and even his own point of view, he was a danger to the Fremen and not an actual messiah. It's not like the message got muddled at all. It's literally just two separate perspectives. She also says this.
I'll pair all of that with the overt Middle Eastern influence with zero participation from members in that community.
This is the problem with going into a story with your own demands for what should and shouldn't be in there. Yes, originally, the Fremen were based on Arabs. One of the groups of people Herbert based them off was Arab. I fail to see how that means that tens of thousands of years in the future on a desert planet that doesn't actually exist in real life, the Fremen should all be Arab. It's low-key sounded like people are looking for something to complain about, I won't lie. The Empire in Star Wars is supposed to represent the United States and their involvement in the Vietnam War. That doesn't mean Luke and the whole rebellion should have been Vietnamese people and the Empire should have ate burgers in the control room and sang the national anthem after blowing up Alderaan. Let's think for a second. Using cultural appropriation as a criticism of the movie because Jessica wore what looks like traditional clothing is dumb too. It should be criticized, yes, but within the context of the movie. A white woman in those kinds of traditional garments should make you uncomfortable because what Jessica is doing is literally cultural appropriation within the movie. It represents how Paul and Jessica are leeching off of Fremen culture for their survival, and it frames it as sinister as fuck. There's a reason everyone is praising Rebecca Ferguson for her performance in this movie. Now, I'm not a Dune book reader, but some book readers have come out and said that Chaney's character was changed and she wasn't against Paul in the books. When you really look at it, the biggest reason they would have done this is probably to make it more obvious that Paul isn't a hero or an actual savior. It works out well, and she's definitely the main reason that general audiences understood the message. However, it's an example of how creators are starting to factor in the questionable media literacy of their audiences, and it's directly impacting the stories they make. Is that necessarily a bad thing? Maybe. I'm personally somebody who likes when things in movies are more subtle and not spelled out. It makes it more fun to notice little details and put together a bigger picture of what the movie's trying to say. When you have a creator that knows their audience needs things spelled out for them, it leads to changes that kind of take away from the fun of getting immersed in a story because the characters end up literally just saying their character arcs. Look at Multiverse of Madness, for example. I remember sitting in the theater thinking, why are they just telling me Strange's character arc? It can be kind of jarring sometimes. It's even more annoying when a good movie about something that's bad gets criticized because the audience acts like the movie is supporting that bad thing. Y'all remember Oppenheimer? Of course y'all do. It's one of the best movies of the decade so far. You had people saying, why didn't the movie show us how the bomb impacted Japanese people? It's a biopic about a man that has never stepped foot in Japan. How the fuck were they gonna do that shit? If you want a movie about the impact the bomb had on Japan, then go watch that. Why are you asking for it in a biopic about Oppenheimer? A movie about what happened to Japan is a whole different movie. The Oppenheimer movie wasn't conveying the message that the bomb was a good thing. They basically say this straight to our face at the end of the movie, and yet, somehow, still that wasn't enough. It's annoying as hell, I won't lie. At this point, people just want movies where the characters look at the camera and say, what I am doing is bad. The creators of this movie do not support this bad thing that I am about to do. I am a bad person. Now for real though, before complaining about some dumb shit, please try to actually pay attention to the movie, bruh. Dune 2 is as far from a white savior story as you can get.